All right, you're back at the Gazette Radio Hour with John and Doug on AM-1220 KHTS, Santa Cruz hometown station. We've got Doug on the line. Doug, you're still with us, I hope?
John, wait a minute. I'm not in the studio, and you go right from Doug and John to John and Doug.
Yeah, we took a vote while you're off the air.
Gee.
We did it alphabetically, order reversed. It just seemed to flow better.
Yeah, when you're doing it, does.
Everybody seems to think it flows better, Doug.
Who's everybody?
Everybody in the studio today.
All two of you?
There's three of us.
Okay.
Thank you. And you were outvoted, so what do you want? Anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted, so Doug, I got you another present. Okay?
Yeah.
I know you're sick and you're kind of laid up, and I was going to get you something else that's kind of fun to do. We have Robert Patrick Lewis on the air with us, so you can talk politics with him. See?
Oh, the author dude?
The author dude.
Right.
Robert, you're there, I hope.
Yes, sir, I am here.
Good. Hey, question for you. I know Green Berets and Seals never leave anybody behind, but could we leave Doug behind? I mean, from an operational standpoint, he's a gimp. Can we just put him out of our misery?
Yeah, sometimes the horse just got to go down, man.
Thank you. Exactly.
That's comforting.
So we can't talk about radical Islam, but we can talk about, now we can't talk about Islamic terrorists. You're not allowed to say that either, are you?
Yeah, no, we don't want to hurt their feelings.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Yeah, we should just have a conference, and I think Doug said sing Kumbaya. I think that would be really cool. Except they'd probably be offended.
Well, no, hey, you just give them a couple jobs. I mean, it's okay that there's hundreds of thousands of Americans without jobs, but we need to give some radical Islamist militants some jobs, and they'll just stop cutting people's heads off.
I have a better idea. Now, this is something that has been proposed before. I don't know whether necessarily with well, we can't say radical Islams or Islamic people, but how about midnight basketball?
Right? Not basketball. We might hurt their feelings again.
Well, no, I didn't say football. Football would be with a pigskin, and that would be insensitive. Oh, basketball would be fine. We'll open up the gyms. Instead of beheading people and roaming the streets at night, they can come into the community centers and play basketball.
But then their feelings are going to be hurt because they're not tall enough. And then they're going to get some kind of basketball player envy.
We could lower the baskets.
Cut off at that.
We'll lower the baskets. They'll never know.
But, Robert, let me ask you this. You spent a lot of time over there. Is what the president talking about on base? If we improve the culture and the economic situation that they're in, is that going to stop these guys from beheading people?
Yeah, doesn't everybody know, right? That's the key thing with humanity. You got to take the top of the class and you got to pull them down. You got to force them down as much as you can, and then everybody else rises to the top, right? That's how you do it. You just take these people and make their life better, and then all of a sudden they'll make everything else. No, it's not. They're the oldest civilization in the world, right? This is the cradle of civilization. That's where humanity started.
Right.
They've been doing it longer than anybody else, and look where they are right now. Right? And so it's funny because if you actually plot a lot of this, so I'm not saying one religion is better than the other, but any society that fundamentally takes religion and makes it the largest part of society, and they stop all science, stop all reading, they allow most of their population to be illiterate, well, you're not going to get a whole lot out of that, right? So, yeah, we could give them jobs, but they can't do a whole lot, right? Because most of them are illiterate. Most of them don't have any education. Most of them don't really want to. They got to stop 8 times a day to go pray.
Wait a minute. Hang on, Robert. I zoned out a little bit. Are we talking about people in the United States?
Well,
because you were pretty much describing the current generation of people who appear to be unemployed.
Well, yeah. Then I got to add always having your face stuck into an iPad or an iPhone. So
yeah, exactly. That's
describing everybody.
Yeah.
But that's the unfortunate thing. He would like to make a blanket statement like that, just saying, "Oh, we just give them jobs and increase their economic situation." Now, I do agree with that wholeheartedly. As Green Berets, the hearts and the minds is a big part of what we do. And there's some great videos. Actually, if you go on YouTube and you look up a video called The Best Among Us, it's about this guy that was in Afghanistan in the early parts of the war that was the Taliban tried to assassinate him, and he's giving this kind of his own little speech from the hospital as he lays there dying. And he's saying, the Taliban, that's what they do. And if you go back to Pol Pot, you look at Stalin, you look at Hitler, you look at every kind of despot that's been there in the instituted regime, they kill the best and brightest that don't agree with them. And it's exactly what the Taliban does. They want everybody to be illiterate. They don't want smart people who can stand up and say, this is stupid, guys. We can't follow these. And so if we can institute education and agriculture into Afghanistan, into Syria, into Jordan, into all these hotbeds, we won't really have to worry about this. But unfortunately, their culture goes against that, right? Because they allow religion to dominate their culture. They take 50% of their society. They don't allow women to go to school, right? That's 50% of their society. And I'll be the first to admit, most of the women I know are a lot smarter and stronger and tougher than me, right? So if you take 50% of that out of the equation, what are you left with? And, most of the guys, not the best and brightest that I've met, So it's an unfortunate thing that, it would help if we gave them jobs, but it's not so simple as just posting it out in the class.
To me, it's a little arrogant.
It's arrogant and it's naive.
Yeah, but it's everybody wants a Kentucky Fried Chicken, so they can be just like us.
I think there's something against that in the Islamic culture.
Okay, all right. So let's go with McDonald's. Okay, McDonald's works, right? Okay, everybody wants a McDonald's. Everybody wants a Starbucks.
Okay, Starbucks. There you go. That's nice.
That's not offensive, unless you're anti-coffee.
I'm sure they'll be offended somehow.
Yeah, but everybody wants a Starbucks. Everybody wants to be middle class. And you said something earlier where you're going to, take from the rich and give to the poor, but it really is a little bit more than that, isn't it? It's take from those according to wealth and redistribute to those according to need. Sounds vaguely familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know, and that's, it's a big thing with the left to try and downplay capitalism as much as they can, but in all honesty, the United States of America doesn't have free market capitalism. So every time you try to use an example from the U.S. saying it's bad, we don't truly use the free market capitalism that we love to brag about, right?
Yeah,
as long as a CEO can buy a senator and buy votes, and a lobbyist can literally write legislation that gets enacted within a month, we're not truly using free market capitalism. I believe if the United States actually went back to that, took money out of politics, stopped allowing lifelong politicians, and go back to what we started with. Politicians can do 2 terms, and then you go back and get a real job, buddy.
Yeah,
I think that would fundamentally change everything.
There you go. Hey, Robert, you can hold on until after the break, I hope, because I'm sure Doug's got some questions once his pain meds kick in.
I'll be right here, guys.
All right.
Okay.
You're listening to Gazette Radio with Doug and John on AM-1220 KHTS, Santa Clarita's hometown station. We'll be right back with the author, Green Beret, all-around good guy, Robert Patrick Lewis. And, Doug's on the phone, too. All right, you're back. Welcome to the Gazette Radio Hour with John and Doug on AM-1220 KHTS, Santa Clarita. Doug, be quiet. On AM-1220 KHTS, Santa Clarita's hometown station. I don't interrupt you. And notice how I didn't
say anything.
Notice how I didn't say, you need to know. All right, we're talking to the resident expert, Robert Patrick Lewis. Now, Doug, off the air, you were telling me that you had a question for Robert. Isn't that right?
Yeah. No, Robert, we all agree that the president is screwing this up. I mean, we have every expert on TV that tells us. And, I've been laying here on the couch 8 hours a day the last week, so I've even had to switch over to CNN. And I know, but
I want to see their
viewpoint. And they kind of agree, too. They're down on the guy also.
Is that the Cartoon Network?
Bad. But let's just get right down to the nitty-gritty. What if these guys are not contained? Are they going to eventually get to Europe? Are they eventually going to really take over that side of the ocean, do you think?
Well, so there's a fundamental difference in the way that you fight wars. So you have your ground pounder infantry that they go after the guys that are actually shooting at Americans, right? That's what they do. Thank God for them, because we need that part of the battle. But then when you start to get into the other side of the intelligence matrix, there are a lot of other jobs that we do, that we as Green Berets, we go after HVTs, we collect high-level intel, because we're not just looking for the guys that are placing an IED or going and shooting at an American. We're following the money, right? So that's the most important thing, is that you want to find the guys that are funding these, radical mosques, these madrasas that are actually training these guys and paying for them and arming them. Most of those guys, they're not in Afghanistan. They're not in Jordan. They're not in Syria. They're in Dubai. They're in Germany. They're in London. These are big money players. These are guys with millions and millions and billions. We even found connections to the Saudi royal family when I was in Iraq.
Oh, wow.
Direct connections to them funding radical madrasas in North Africa that were sending fighters up to Afghanistan. We could find direct links, right? So they're already there. When you say, could this go to the shores of Europe, well, I mean, they're already there. That's where their money are. That's where the big players are. So they're there. Now, a good part of that is they're not going to want people messing up their own backyard, but they're already having influence in those areas. So they're already there.
So what's their end game? I mean, is it just the annihilation of the United States, or capitalism, or recognition of them as a state, as a political entity? I mean,
well, that's a fundamental problem with this is we as Westerners really want to try and figure out why they're doing this, and there's 1,000 different reasons, right? So the guy that has just taken a pot shot in America and Afghanistan, he doesn't have a fundamental indifference to Americans. Most of them don't. Most of them are just poor dirt merchants who are trying to feed their family. The Taliban comes in. They say, hey, we'll pay you $100 every time you shoot an American. And they go, great, that's a month of income for my family. And they go do it. They don't hate us. They're just doing it because they're getting paid to do it. Then you have the other people who are more fundamental. These are the guys that run the radical mosques. You have the guys that actually train in the madrasas and brainwash these kids from when they're little kids all the way up to the strap a vest on their chest. Right. These are more of your hardcore fundamentalists. A lot of them, it's a religious thing. They truly believe that we are the Crusaders and we're trying to overtake Islam, right? So they're a lot more fundamental. Then when you get to the higher levels, a lot of it truly is politics and money. Some of them want Sharia law throughout the world. Some of them want a caliphate. Some of them, they're truly believing it's more of a world domination thing than it is little pot shots here and there.
Right.
So it all depends on who you're talking about and who you're looking at.
That shifting sand, no pun intended, is what makes it very difficult to deal with them as a political entity.
Yeah, it is, and that's what makes it tough to fight, right? Because every front needs a different plan of action, because going after each of these guys is fundamentally different.
Yeesh. So, all right, we've identified the problem. Now what do we do about it?
Well, that's tough, that's the problem, is that you're trying to influence what we do economically, fiscally, politically. You're talking about geopolitics here, right? So everybody has their own idea. So we have our nations that are all allies, quote unquote, but we all have our different things. So when we were in Afghanistan, I operated out of a lot of different NATO bases. We would move around constantly.
Right.
And the only people that actually went out and fought, that would actually go out and do missions, were what we call the Five Eyes, right? So the English-speaking nations plus Germany. Nobody else would actually leave their base. So French Foreign Legion, they fought. Those are some rough guys, man. They would fight with us straight up everywhere we go. But like the Turks wouldn't leave the base, the Belgians wouldn't leave the base. Guess who's footing the bill for all of this? Yeah. The only nation in the world who actually pays their NATO dues is the United States. Right. So we essentially funded these guys to go over there and sit around and do nothing. So it's really hard to kind of create this plan and look what you're going to do, because we have all these other nations that say they're helping that aren't really helping. Yeah. So it's all on us, yet everybody complains when we do what we got to do because they're not picking up the slack.
Well, God forbid any one of the quote-unquote enemies in the Islamic world, because you can't say Islamic terrorists or radicals, ever join forces with, say, the Russians and kind of invade the United States. Yeah, somebody's been reading.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, now you want to let everybody in on the secret? Because it's actually a really good book. But you can't tell me the end, because I'm still reading.
Okay, well, and that's, it's not really the end, so this is book 1 out of 3, but for everybody listening, the pack was released this week, so you can go check out tactical16.com, Amazon, thepackbook.com, and go find it. But yeah, it's out there. It's out there in Kindle. The audiobook was uploaded, so it'll be released later either this weekend or next week. It's available actually on fohpod.com. Mike Dawson did the voiceover, and he put it on his website.
Oh, very cool.
But that's essentially what it is. All these things that I know, that I've seen, that I firsthand experienced it, and I see all these chess pieces around the world moving. For me, that's my next logical action. That's what I see happening, because, you don't form these alliances with huge companies like Russia and China and Iran just because, right? That's the next kind of logical progression of what happens when all these guys are palling up.
Yeah. If only I had hurt my knee and was lying around the couch with nothing to do.
Hey, Robert, but the president said in the symposium that we need to team up with these guys. We need to build teams together. It's got one big world, happy family to take care of these guys.
That'd be great if we weren't human beings. But, as human beings, that's just not the way we work, man.
So is he just naive? Is he really, really believe this? Or is he just trying to placate us till his term is done?
So, part of me wants to believe he's naive and an idiot. But then I understand the guy has a degree from Harvard and Columbia. So I know he's not an idiot. Adam Carolla has this great thing that he looks at a lot of people and says, you're either stupid or you're a liar. And if you're not stupid, you're a liar, right? And Obama's not stupid by any means. A very scared part of me, and again, part of the reason that I wrote the pact, is because what if he's not stupid, and what if he's not he is a liar, but what if he's actually implicit in some of this? What if he's doing this because it was his ticket for when all of this happens to kind of have a cushy position somewhere and not get his family shot at? What if he's actually taking part in the destruction of the United States? What if all these different people that have been coming up with these conspiracy theories, Dinesh D'Souza has done a lot about this. What if that's real? We're starting to see a lot of these things that would have been called conspiracy theories 3 or 4 years ago that now we know are absolute fact. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them, man. That can't be chance.
Gee, thanks, Robert. On that note, wow, I guess we'll talk to you next week, maybe?
Yeah, hey, I know it's scary. It's a bad thing to think about, but as I wrote at the beginning of the book, it's just I think it's something we got to keep your eye on. Hey, if I'm wrong, that's good.
Yeah,
but if I'm right, you just be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Robert Patrick Lewis, The Pact, highly recommended. At least the 80 or so pages. No, I'm probably close to like 200 pages. I'm into it already.
Awesome.
It was one of those where it's like, okay, I'll put it down after this chapter. After this chapter. Oh, wait a minute. I'll read one more chapter. And it goes on and on and on. All right.
I got a lot of that. Please leave a review on Amazon when you're done.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We will talk to you next week, Robert.
All right. Thank you very much.
Pleasure as always.
See you, Robert.
Feel better.
Thank you.
All right. You're listening to Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John on AM-1220 KHTS, Santa Clarita's hometown station. We will be right back with sports.